Welcome to Prime Trends USA, my dear friends. Today, let's dive into the heart of feeding of the 5,000 peoples and uncover its timeless lessons that can inspire and transform us. There's something about moments of great need that challenge us to look beyond our limits, to see that even in scarcity, abundance can emerge. Today, I want to take you back to a day when 5,000 people gathered, all with one need: hunger. But in the midst of this hunger, something miraculous happened, and it didn't come from the hands of a hero, but from a simple act of faith. In Matthew 14:13, 21, and John 6:1-14, we find a story that speaks not only to those in biblical times, but to you and I in our time of challenges. Jesus had been teaching, healing, and spreading a message of love and hope, but the crowd began to grow restless. They were hungry. They had followed him for days, and now the moment came when their hunger was no longer the disciples, seeing the enormity of the need, were at a loss. There was no food, no provision, no way to meet the challenge. They turned to Jesus and said, "Send them away. Let them find food in the villages." But Jesus, with a heart full of compassion, looked at them and said, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." And then, in the midst of the crowd, a young boy stepped forward. He had nothing but 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish. It wasn't much, but it was something. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Something small, something simple, an act of faith. He gave what he had. In that moment, his offering seemed insignificant compared to the thousands who were hungry. Yet it was the spark that would ignite a miracle. Jesus took the boy's offering, looked up to heaven, and gave thanks. He didn't focus on what was lacking. He didn't worry about how much food there was. Instead, he focused on the one who could provide. He knew that when you trust in God, what seems impossible becomes possible. He broke the bread, and he gave it to his disciples to distribute among the people. And something extraordinary happened. As the disciples passed out the bread and fish, everyone ate. And not just a little, they were all filled. The Bible says they were satisfied, every single person, to the point where 12 baskets of leftovers were gathered, 5 loaves, 2 fish. And yet, all were fed, 12 baskets of leftovers. The abundance that came from a simple act of faith and the blessing of God. What we have may seem small, insignificant even, but in God's hands, it is more than enough. Many of us are like the disciples, looking at the vastness of the world's needs, the size of our dreams, the depth of our challenges, and wondering how we can make a difference. We look at our own resources, our time, our talents, our skills, and think, it's not enough. But here's the truth. With God, it's always enough. It doesn't matter how small your offering may seem. When you place it in His hands, He can multiply it in ways you never imagined. In life, we often feel the need to do grand things to make a difference. But sometimes it's the small, simple acts of kindness, faith, and generosity that make the greatest impact. When you offer what you have, no matter how little, it can touch lives in ways you may never see. You may not know the extent of your influence, but God does. He sees it, He blesses it, and He multiplies it. So when you face a challenge, when you feel like you don't have enough, or you don't know where to turn, remember this: what you have is enough. Trust God, offer what you have, and watch as He transforms it into something greater. The story of the feeding of the 5,000 is not just a story of provision. It's a story of faith, of trust, and of believing that with God, nothing is impossible. In the same way, God is calling us to step out in faith. Your offering might seem small, but when placed in His hands, it becomes part of something bigger than you can imagine. So take that step, trust Him, and watch how He provides, how He multiplies, and how He turns your small faith into a mighty work. Faith, trust, abundance. With God, all things are possible. If this message has blessed you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring messages. Stay encouraged and remember, thank you, and may God's transformative power fill your life with joy and purpose.